In the heart of a picturesque suburb, the neighborhood thrived under the watchful eye of the Homeowners Association, HOA. With its manicured lawns, vibrant flower beds, and an almost uniform architectural style, the community exuded a charm that attracted families of all sizes. Children played in the streets while neighbors exchanged friendly waves from their porches, fostering a sense of camaraderie among residents. The HOA played a crucial role in maintaining this idyllic atmosphere, diligently enforcing regulations that governed everything from lawn care to house colors. Their mission was clear: preserve property values and ensure that the community remained a desirable place to live. However, behind the facade of harmony lay an intricate web of rules and expectations that residents felt compelled to navigate. The HOA's committee members, often referred to as the HOA cops, were known for their unwavering commitment to upholding standards, even when it meant ruffling a few feathers. They made rounds throughout the neighborhood, clipboard in hand, ready to document any potential violations they deemed necessary. While some residents appreciated their efforts to maintain order, others felt the weight of their presence looming over them like an unwelcome shadow. Among these residents was the protagonist, who found themselves caught in this delicate balance between compliance and personal expression. For many, the HOA's guidelines provided a sense of security; for others, it felt stifling. Yet, the protagonist took pride in their home and believed that individuality had its place in their community. With their beloved giant guard dog by their side, they felt prepared to stand tall against any encroachment on their freedom. As the season turned, the HOA decided it was time for inspections, a routine check to ensure everyone adhered to the community's guidelines. With a mixture of apprehension and defiance, the protagonist braced themselves for what was to come, unaware that their loyal canine companion would soon become an unexpected guardian in this face-off between resident and authority. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge not only property standards but also redefine relationships within this closely knit neighborhood. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the yard, the protagonist's loyal companion emerged from the shadows, a massive Belgian Malinois named Titan. With a commanding presence that seemed to fill the space around him, Titan wasn't just a guard dog, he was a steadfast guardian and an integral part of the protagonist's life. Weighing nearly 100 pounds and standing at a formidable height, Titan's sleek, muscular build signaled not only strength but also agility, a combination that made him more than capable of protecting his territory. Titan had been with the protagonist since he was a pup, brought home from a rescue shelter when he was just 6 months old. From the very beginning, it was clear that they shared an unbreakable bond. The pup had quickly adapted to his new environment, turning into a vigilant protector who always kept an eye on his owner and their surroundings. With striking amber eyes that gleamed with intelligence and an instinctive sense of alertness, Titan could sense any change in atmosphere, becoming particularly vigilant whenever strangers approached. Inside the home, Titan's demeanor softened. He was affectionate and playful, often showing his softer side during moments spent lounging on the couch alongside his human or playfully nudging them with his snout for attention. Yet, outside in the open air or when intruders were present, Titan transformed into a fierce sentinel. Barking deep and low, he could deter visitors from getting too close without wavering affection for those deemed trustworthy. This duality made Titan not just a guard dog but also a cherished companion who understood the protagonist's feelings intuitively. The two shared an unspoken communication; what might be viewed as threats were quickly assessed by Titan, who stood ready to defend his home and family if called upon. As the day of the HOA inspection loomed closer, the protagonist felt increasingly grateful for Titan's presence. They knew that with such a devoted protector by their side, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead, whether it meant managing neighborhood politics or simply ensuring that their unique lifestyle remained intact. Little did they realize how pivotal Titan would soon be in this unfolding drama with the HOA. As the days passed, an air of tension began to settle over the neighborhood. The Homeowners Association, HOA, had recently sent out their annual inspection notices, a standard procedure that sent ripples of anxiety through many residents, including the protagonist. The crisp, official-looking envelope had arrived in the mail, its contents outlining the impending inspections scheduled for the following week. Each resident was to prepare their properties for scrutiny, a reminder that the HOA's watchful eye was always present. The protagonist studied the notice carefully, their heart racing as they recalled the list of regulations: overgrown grass, peeling paint, and various other minor infractions that could potentially be cited. While some homes gleamed with perfection, the protagonist's property was a blend of unique touches and personal flair, an expression of individuality that often walked a fine line between community standards and personal freedom. As they looked around their yard, self-doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Was the garden too wild? Did the porch furniture clash with HOA-approved styles? The little imperfections that once felt charming now loomed large in their mind. To make matters worse, rumors circulated among neighbors about harsh penalties for violations, fines that would hit hard during tough economic times. This realization intensified the protagonist's anxiety. They were determined to avoid any conflict with the HOA but couldn't shake the feeling that they were being scrutinized more than others. Every creak in the floorboards or rustling leaf outside seemed amplified as they anticipated unwanted visits from the HOA inspectors. Titan remained by their side, sensing his owner's unease. The dog's steadfast presence offered a measure of comfort amidst rising worries. Despite his usual calm demeanor, even Titan seemed to pick up on the tension in the air. Late at night, as anxiety festered, the protagonist found solace in gentle strokes along Titan's fur, hoping for reassurance that everything would be all right. As inspection day drew nearer, thoughts of potential confrontations and HOA judgments began to swirl, prompting a mix of dread and determination within the protagonist. They knew they had to prepare, not just their property but also their mindset, for whatever challenges might arise when those HOA inspectors came knocking. The day of the HOA inspection dawned bright and clear, an almost deceptive beauty that contrasted sharply with the protagonist's tumultuous state of mind. With the morning sun shining through the windows, illuminating every inch of the home, the protagonist moved about with a sense of frantic urgency. Titan, always observant, seemed to pick up on the heightened tension, pacing back and forth as if he understood that something significant was about to unfold. Dressed in comfortable yet respectable clothes, the protagonist grabbed a cup of coffee and attempted to suppress their rising anxiety. They took a moment to glance around their property, mentally scanning for any potential infractions. The sidewalk needed a slight edging, and a few bold flowers had erupted into the grass of the flower bed, an expression of individuality that now felt like a liability. With each passing minute, visions of stern HOA members whipping out clipboards invaded their thoughts, amplifying the pressure to conform. Determined not to let fear dictate their emotions, the protagonist took a deep breath and began some last-minute tidying up. They pushed the unruly plants back into order while occasionally shooting Titan reassuring glances that seemed to say, "I've got this." Despite feeling overwhelmed, they knew Titan would stand by them through whatever scrutiny lay ahead. As noon approached, the unmistakable sound of cars approaching sent a jolt through the protagonist's heart. They rushed to reposition Titan in the backyard, hoping to project an air of calm while also keeping him away from any potential encounter with the HOA inspectors. As Titan settled onto his favorite patch of sun-soaked grass, he watched intently, muscles coiled and ready as if sensing an impending showdown. The moment arrived when two SUVs pulled up into the driveway, emblazoned with the familiar HOA logo. From them emerged well-dressed representatives armed with clipboards and pens, a stark reminder that their purpose was to judge rather than connect. The protagonist stood at their front door, heart pounding and nerves frayed, unsure of what to expect but determined not to let their individuality falter in the face of authority. This was it, an intersection where personal freedom would clash head-on with rigid standards, and Titan would soon play his pivotal role in this unfolding drama. As the SUVs rolled to a stop, the protagonist's heart raced in tandem with Titan's low growl, a clear indication that the moment they had been anticipating was finally upon them. The two HOA representatives stepped out, exuding an air of authority, their crisp attire and polished shoes reflecting a rigorous adherence to the community's standards. One was a middle-aged woman with sharp features and an even sharper gaze, while the other was a bespectacled man who seemed more interested in his clipboard than anything else. "Good afternoon," the woman called out, her voice pleasant yet tinged with a professional formality. She approached with an assertive stride, her eyes scanning the property as if already cataloging potential infractions. The man trailed behind, scribbling notes without much engagement with the surroundings, or the protagonist. The protagonist stepped forward, attempting to channel confidence despite their racing thoughts. "Hello. Welcome to my home. I'm ready for the inspection," they said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. Titan's posture remained tense beside them, muscles taut and alert, watching the newcomers with keen interest. The woman nodded slightly but continued her assessment of the yard. "We'll just be conducting a standard routine check," she replied, her tone implying that routine didn't necessarily mean harmless. "We're looking for any violations of HOA guidelines." As she began to circle the property, Titan shifted closer to the protagonist, letting out a low rumble that echoed his owner's unease. The protagonist glanced down at him, whispering soothing words in an attempt to calm both Titan and themselves. "It's okay, boy. Just stay close." The man finally looked up from his clipboard, adjusting his glasses as he spoke. "We'll need to inspect your exterior first. We want to ensure everything is compliant with community standards." His voice was bland and monotonous, lacking warmth or understanding of the personal stakes involved for residents. The tension thickened as they moved toward the front yard where the flowers had begun to spill over the borders. The protagonist felt their stomach churn at every glance from the inspectors, each one feeling like an assessment of their worth as a homeowner. But as Titan stood protectively by their side, ready to respond to any disturbance, they steeled themselves for what lay ahead, knowing this encounter would set the tone for their ongoing battle between individuality and conformity. As the HOA representatives began their inspection, Titan's demeanor shifted dramatically. His stance became more assertive, muscles taut under his sleek coat as he instinctively positioned himself closer to the protagonist, casting wary glances at the newcomers. The low growl that emanated from his throat was a clear warning sign, sending a palpable tension into the air. Both the protagonist and the inspectors felt it. Titan wasn't just a faithful companion, he was a formidable guardian ready to protect his territory. The sharp-featured woman paused in her assessment to cast a sideways glance at Titan, her expression flickering with surprise before quickly returning to her confident facade. "What a big dog you have there," she remarked, though the awe in her voice seemed to mask a hint of apprehension. Titan stood tall, his eyes narrowed as he focused intently on her movements, full of calculated vigilance. To him, these strangers represented an intrusion on their home. As they moved closer to the front yard, Titan's growling escalated, a deep rumble that resonated through the otherwise quiet afternoon. His posture shifted slightly as though preparing to leap into action if either inspector crossed an unseen boundary. The bespectacled man flipped through pages on his clipboard, squinting in discomfort at Titan's presence. "You might want to keep your dog inside," he suggested tentatively, tapping his pen against the clipboard in rhythmic unease. The protagonist felt an odd mix of pride and concern swell within them. They had always known Titan to be protective, but this was different, his instincts were in overdrive. "He's just being cautious," they replied, attempting to project calm while also trying to reassure Titan with gentle pats along his side. "He's friendly, he just needs to get used to you." Despite their words, the air thickened with uncertainty as the inspectors continued their evaluation under the watchful eyes of Titan. Each scribbled note seemed laced with implications about potential fines or violations, further heightening both the protagonist's anxiety and Titan's protective instincts. The dynamic had shifted, what should have been a routine inspection turned into something charged with palpable tension, a standoff at the intersection of authority and loyalty. As the inspection progressed, it became abundantly clear that Titan wouldn't back down easily from defending his home and owner. With every cautious approach taken by the inspectors, each low growl served as a reminder that this would not be just another day for either party involved. It was a battle that brought personal freedom directly into conflict with community standards. The atmosphere thickened as Titan's growl reverberated through the yard, sending an unmistakable signal to the HOA representatives that their authority was being challenged. The sharp-featured woman straightened her posture, masking her unease with a feigned confidence as she attempted to maintain control over the situation. "We need to proceed with the inspection," she insisted, though her voice wavered slightly, betraying her discomfort as Titan continued to eye her suspiciously. The bespectacled man's hands trembled slightly as he flipped through his clipboard, making him look less like a figure of authority and more like a nervous intern. He kept glancing over his shoulder at Titan, who stood resolute, as if guarding not just his territory but also the rights of the protagonist. Could you perhaps keep your dog away from us while we perform our duties?" he suggested awkwardly, clearly attempting to assert some semblance of command amidst his rising anxiety. The protagonist could sense the shifting power dynamics, feeling a thrill of defiance swelling within them. They responded firmly yet calmly, "Titan is protective by nature but very friendly once he knows you. I'm sure he will be fine." With each passing moment, Titan remained at the protagonist's side, unwavering and alert. The dog was aware that his human felt vulnerable and was prepared to shield them from any perceived threat. As the inspectors moved cautiously around the perimeter of the house, Titan mirrored their movements with poised vigilance. Each step they took closer to the yard seemed to aggravate his low growl, his body tensed in readiness for any sign of intrusion. The woman attempted to assert her authority louder now, directing comments about garden boundaries and paint colors toward the protagonist while maintaining a wary distance from Titan. "We're here to help maintain the standards of this community," she declared with forced bravado. Yet it was clear that her bravado crumbled under Titan's watchful gaze. The tension between them was palpable, an invisible tug-of-war ere the inspectors struggled to assert their authority while being acutely aware of their precarious position in relation to the enormous Malinois guarding his owner so closely. Every comment about violations elicited more growls from Titan and deeper unease among the inspectors, revealing how tenuous their grip on the situation truly was. In this charged moment, it became evident that the HOA members were not merely facing an inspection, they were encountering a steadfast bond between owner and dog, one that would not be easily intimidated. The stakes were high for all involved as personal freedom clashed with rigid community expectations, a confrontation that neither could ignore or walk away from lightly. As the inspection continued, the atmosphere was thick with tension, yet it wasn't long before the situation took a humorous turn, largely due to the misunderstandings surrounding Titan. The bespectacled man, trying his best to stay composed, cautiously approached the front door while keeping a careful eye on Titan. "So, your dog doesn't bite, does he?" he asked nervously, attempting to break the ice with a light-hearted question. The protagonist chuckled softly in response, misreading the fear in his eyes for genuine curiosity. "Only when I tell him to," they replied playfully, fully aware that Titan was more of a cuddly giant than a fierce threat. The man's face paled slightly at their joke, prompting another awkward silence. The sharp-featured woman tried to regain control of the situation and chided her colleague gently. "Just focus on the inspection, Ted," she said, attempting to steer them back to business. But her voice lacked conviction as she shot furtive glances toward Titan, who remained steadfastly by the protagonist's side. "Right," Ted replied, clearing his throat nervously. As he approached a flower bed overflowing with vibrant blooms, he shouted over his shoulder as if announcing an impending disaster, "I just wanted to make it clear, I'm not an animal person." This prompted a light laugh from the protagonist despite their anxiety. "Well then, you might want to keep your distance." The woman attempted to roll her eyes but failed as she maneuvered back toward the porch, clearly uncomfortable with Titan's proximity. "Let's just focus on compliance," she declared, her bravado returning for a moment before faltering again under Titan's watchful gaze. In his efforts to reassert authority, Ted awkwardly began pointing out potential violations while avoiding eye contact with either Titan or the protagonist. If I were you, I'd consider trimming those bushes, and that paint color might not be what we're looking for, he stammered. Oh no. Not the paint color, the protagonist joked dramatically. What will the neighbors think? Maybe I should invite you both for tea after this. The remark caught everyone off guard, even Titan seemed momentarily confused by the sudden levity in the air. The humor diffused some of the tension but only briefly, while Ted struggled to maintain his composure and authority amidst laughter and anxiety. In that moment of light-hearted exchange amid scrutiny, it became clear that communication was key, but so was a sense of humor in navigating such confrontations, especially when it involved a dog like Titan, whose presence commanded respect and unpredictability all at once. Just as the light banter began to ease the tension, a sudden movement caught Titan's attention. One of the inspectors, trying to navigate his clipboard without looking up, inadvertently stepped too close to the protagonist and Titan. The dog's body stiffened instantly, alert and ready, his growl amplifying into a deep bark that reverberated through the quiet neighborhood like a thunderclap. The bespectacled man froze mid-step, eyes wide with fear as he stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. Whoa! Not so close, he exclaimed, raising his hands defensively. The sharp-featured woman's earlier bravado evaporated entirely as she darted a glance at her colleague, poised to bolt if necessary. Titan, relax, the protagonist called out, trying to maintain control of both their dog and the spiraling situation. They could feel the worried energy radiating from the inspectors, sensing that any misstep on their part could provoke Titan further. The protective instinct within Titan surged. He was interpreting this proximity as an encroachment on his territory and protecting his owner at all costs. The atmosphere turned electric as both parties found themselves in a standoff, Titan growling menacingly beside the protagonist while the inspectors anxiously clutched their clipboards like shields. "We're just trying to do our jobs here," the woman said nervously as she backed away slowly, keeping her eyes locked on Titan. "Maybe it would be best if you both took a step back," suggested Ted, his voice trembling slightly with every word that passed through his lips. Dogs can be unpredictable. The statement only deepened Titan's growl, a clear signal that intimidation would not be tolerated. As her composure started to crack under the pressure, the woman attempted to reclaim some authority. "We need access to all areas of your property for inspection," she declared, though her voice barely concealed her fear. The protagonist felt torn between laughter at their absurd predicament and concern for Titan's escalating protectiveness. "I assure you, he's really friendly once you get past the gruff exterior," they attempted to reassure her while nervously fiddling with Titan's collar. In that moment of high tension, it became painfully clear that communication had broken down completely. Fears were now ruling all interactions more than any adherence to community standards. Titan stood firm, the embodiment of loyalty, and in this charged standoff between dog and authority, personal freedom was being defended fiercely by a creature designed for protection. The very essence of home felt precarious amid such authority figures, proving easily rattled by a guard dog's fierce loyalty. As the tension lingered in the air, an unexpected turn of events began to unfold. After several moments of uncertainty, Titan gradually relaxed, sensing his owner's growing determination to communicate rather than confront. The protagonist knelt down beside him, gently stroking his fur and speaking in soothing tones. "It's okay, buddy. Just relax," they whispered, hoping to convey calmness not only to their dog but also to the inspectors. Gradually, Titan's growling subsided, and he sat back on his haunches, his watchful eyes still fixed on the inspectors but now without the same intensity. Seeing this shift, the bespectacled man took a cautious step forward. Is your dog trained?" he asked hesitantly. The protagonist seized this moment to advocate for both Titan and their right to express individuality within the community. "Yes. He's very well trained and friendly once you get to know him, the protagonist said with a hopeful smile. I understand that he can be intimidating at first glance, but he's here to protect me and our home. The sharp-featured woman exchanged glances with her colleague, her bravado fading as she observed the gentle interaction between Titan and his owner. Perhaps we can work together here, she suggested tentatively. We just want to make sure everything is compliant with HOA rules. With Titan now sitting calmly beside them, the protagonist made a bold suggestion. How about we conduct this inspection together? I can keep Titan close while you check for any violations, they offered earnestly. This compromise could potentially bridge the gap between authority and personal freedom. The inspectors nodded slowly, visibly reassured by Titan's newfound demeanor. That sounds reasonable, Ted replied cautiously, adjusting his glasses as he regained some composure. As they began the inspection again with a more collaborative spirit, Titan remained alert but relaxed, his loyalty still firmly protecting his owner without projecting intimidation. The protagonist felt a sense of relief wash over them as they participated in this joint effort. The atmosphere shifted from one of tension to cooperation as boundaries were redefined and mutual respect took precedence over rigid adherence to rules. Through this unexpected resolution, both sides discovered common ground, an appreciation for individual expression alongside shared responsibility for maintaining community standards. By acknowledging each other's concerns and demonstrating that communication could prevail even in challenging situations, a new understanding emerged, a softer side of both Titan and the HOA members that would shape future interactions within their neighborhood dynamic for years to come. The incident between the protagonist, Titan, and the HOA representatives serves as a poignant reflection on the dynamics of community relations, authority, and the role of pet ownership in neighborhood settings. It highlights the delicate balance that exists between maintaining community standards and allowing for individual expression. Throughout the encounter, it became evident that a strict enforcement of rules can often lead to misunderstandings, creating an environment ripe for tension and conflict. On one side, the HOA members represented authority, tasked with preserving property values and enforcing regulations. Yet, their rigid approach initially alienated residents like the protagonist, who found themselves caught in a web of anxiety regarding their unique home choices. The fear of repercussions loomed large, emphasizing how easily authority figures can become intimidating when they overlook personal connections to homes and pets. Titan, as both a protector and a beloved companion, embodied the spirit of loyalty that every pet owner feels toward their animal. His presence demonstrated that pets are not merely animals, they are integral parts of people's lives, serving as barriers against perceived threats while also being sources of comfort in stressful situations. The bond between Titan and his owner provided clarity in a moment where authority felt overwhelming, reminding everyone involved that love and protection often override strict adherence to rules. The compromise reached during the inspection underscored the importance of open communication in resolving conflicts. By working together rather than opposing each other, both sides realized they could meet community standards while valuing individuality. This incident encouraged a dialogue about where flexibility could be introduced into rigid HOA regulations, particularly concerning pet ownership and its significance within the community framework. Ultimately, this encounter served as an opportunity for growth on both sides. The inspectors learned to see beyond their clipboards to understand the emotional stakes involved for residents, while the protagonist recognized that authority figures could still engage empathetically under pressure. The balance shifted from mere compliance to cooperation, promoting a newfound respect for both individual expression and shared community responsibilities. Through this experience, relationships were strengthened, not only among neighbors but also between residents and those in positions of power. This newfound understanding fostered a more inclusive atmosphere where personal freedom could flourish alongside community standards, shaping the neighborhood dynamics for years to come. It was a testament to how moments of conflict can lead to greater understanding when approached with empathy and openness. The experience with the HOA not only illuminated the protagonist's journey alongside Titan but also imparted several valuable lessons regarding personal boundaries, respect for pets, and navigating relationships with local governance. First and foremost, it underscored the importance of maintaining personal boundaries in the face of authority. The protagonist learned that standing firm in their individuality and self-expression is essential when confronted with rigid structures that may overlook the nuances of personal lives. Additionally, the encounter highlighted the deep bond between pet owners and their animals. Titan's protective instincts served as a reminder of how pets are more than just animals, they are integral companions who play vital roles in our safety and emotional well-being. The protagonist's relationship with Titan emphasized that while rules are important, there should also be room for understanding and respect for the unique dynamics that pets bring into homes. The resolution of the conflict showcased the efficacy of open communication, a crucial takeaway during any encounter involving differing viewpoints. By fostering a dialogue rather than allowing misunderstandings to escalate, both sides were able to reach a compromise. This not only alleviated immediate tensions but also laid the groundwork for an ongoing relationship built on respect rather than fear. Furthermore, the incident served as a catalyst for reconsidering local governance's approach to community standards. The inspectors realized that flexibility could be beneficial and that inflexible rules might not always serve the best interests of the residents. An atmosphere of cooperation emerged from what could have been a hostile confrontation, proving that empathy can bridge gaps where strict adherence to regulations might fail. Ultimately, this experience reaffirmed that successful community dynamics rely on mutual respect and understanding. Relationships can thrive when individuals recognize one another's concerns and work together to find common ground. As such, the protagonist's journey helped redefine not only their own relationship with authority figures but also the broader interaction between homeowners and their governing bodies. In conclusion, moments of conflict, when approached with empathy and openness, can lead to deeper understanding and strengthened bonds among neighbors. The protagonist's experience with Titan illuminated how personal freedom can peacefully coexist with community standards, forging a path toward a more inclusive and respectful neighborhood environment.